Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's Sumo Logic webinar, Trouble in the Land of Open Source, Scaling Your Tools for Your Modern App. Thank you all for joining us today. The presentation is currently being recorded and you are in a listen-only mode. However, I'd encourage all of you to type in your content-related questions or any quick technical or logistical feedback that you may have at any time by using the chat pane on the left-hand side of your screen. Before we kick it off, I'd like to introduce today's speakers, Kalyan Ramanathan and Alex Zadarijny. Kalyan is the VP of Product Marketing at Sumo Logic. He has more than 20 years of experience in software and marketing and brings a deep understanding of the IT operations and management market. Prior to joining Sumo Logic, Kalyan was the VP of Product Marketing at AppDynamics. He's also served as CMO of Criticism, VP of Marketing at Electric Cloud, and as Senior Director of Product Marketing at Optware HP. Alex is the Director of Production and Network Operations at Hootsuite. He was the CTO at Zeedle, a startup that was acquired by Hootsuite, and he was one of the first entrepreneurs who came to Canada from Ukraine with the help of the Startup Visa program. Back in Ukraine, Alex served at O3 Freenet ISP as a Director of Network Development and Growth. Now, without further ado, I'm pleased to pass it over to our presenters. Kalyan, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kayla. Alex, first off, thank you very much for doing this webinar and sharing your IT operations journey with us and the audience at this webinar. Some of us obviously use Hootsuite a lot, and we love the product. But for the audience, can you give us a quick intro into Hootsuite, the company, and the product itself?
Yep. Hi, Kalyan. It's a pleasure for me to be here today. And Hootsuite is a social media platform which has been used by more than 800 customers from Fortune 1000. And we help them to manage their social media profiles and help them organize them. We also have more than 35 global networks covered, among which are the most popular Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, etc.
Wonderful. I use Hootsuite a lot, and as I mentioned before, I love it. And in today's world, if your job involves posting, engaging, interacting with your social media customers and followers, I'd say Hootsuite is pretty much a must-have. So I'm very glad to be presenting this story with you, Alex. Let's sort of talk about the IT world at Hootsuite, Alex. Obviously, you guys are building some mission-critical applications. Give us a sense of what do these applications look like?
Yeah. So in these days, building mission-critical applications would require you most of the time to be in a cloud, and we are 100% using Amazon AWS. We have more than 1,500 nodes running, and we're also using cloud-based services, the whole variety of them, but the most popular ones are CloudFront, Redshift, Lambda, etc. We're also moving towards microservice-based architecture, and we have now more than 30 microservices. Having our application is very dynamic, and we do about dozens of deploys into production per week, and it's really hard to maintain availability in that dynamic environment.
Yeah, it's a great segue to my next question, Alex. Obviously maintaining performance and availability of these mission-critical applications is extremely important to Hootsuite. What are the KPIs that you manage to? What do you wake up every morning or every middle of the night thinking about?
Well, yeah, we think about every moment, every second, every single day. And I want to say that having more than 1,000 customers, 15 million users who are operating with our application from 175 countries all over the world, our main KPI is our uptime, and we are keeping it within 3 nines, which is 99.9.
Okay. So user experience is obviously extremely important to you guys, and making sure that your app is always available to your customers is also very critical. Now, Alex, how did you guys, start to manage your KPIs? I mean, when you guys started out, what tools did you have within your environment to ensure that you meet these KPIs?
Well, of course, availability is influenced by how you are building your application and how you architect it. But another point of availability, which adds into our uptime, and that's why our numbers are that great, is that the login and monitoring solution are really mission critical for us. And initially, we started our login stack based on Logstash, Elasticsearch, and Kibana on top, and our metrics stack with Graphite and Grafana. And the reasons behind that was that it was easy to get started. We had engineers who were touching these systems initially, and it is widely adopted by startups and technology companies. Then again, when you look at these tools, they are open sourced, and they have good enough set of features and capabilities to get started.
Okay, it absolutely makes sense to get started with some of these tools initially, but how are these tools kept up with your company as you guys scale? You have thousands of customers today, millions of users. Are these tools keeping up to spec? What kind of problems did you run into with these solutions?
Yeah, you're totally right with your question asking about the problems, because first of all, the biggest problem is that having this variety of tools forces you to keep multiple of nodes up and running, serving different pieces of these services. And in our case, we had more than 8 nodes for our log stack, and we had and still have more than 4 nodes, which are huge nodes from AWS standpoint for our Graphite stack. And what I want to say is that when you have 100 nodes to collect logs from and metrics as well, it's one side of conversation. The other thing is that it's totally different when you have 10x size of nodes or 100x size of nodes. And the approach of having these tools in place is totally different. So you need to think about availability and SLA for these tools. I would say the SLA of this tool should be higher than an SLA of the actual application, which means that when you start to think about bulletproofing these logs and metric stacks, it comes down to the cost, which grows dramatically. And I want to say that it grows everywhere, no matter which tool are you using. But again, the more infrastructure you need to support, the more involvement you need from your end and from your engineer's end.
That's a great point, Alex. We hear this from many customers, right, who get started out with open source. As you rightfully pointed out, open source is sometimes a good place to start, but over time, right, the cost starts to add up. So free doesn't look free anymore. And, we hear this from many of our customers. So that's interesting. Now, what does the impact? I mean, when things didn't go right for you guys, what didn't get done, or perhaps what didn't get done in a very optimal way?
Well, I just want to talk a bit more about our KPIs and, again, about challenges with it. So we try to keep our detection time within 1 minute for any incidents or any issues that could affect performance or our SLA. And time to react for us is 1 to 5 minutes, but again, we try to keep it as low as it is possible, and usually we are hitting our goal. And again, talking about availability, I want to say that the biggest challenge that we have moving towards microservice architecture is that, let's say, having a couple of nodes up and running, okay, not couple, but couple hundreds of nodes up and running is one thing, but when you have microservice, you have much more logs and much more metrics being sent or that you should collect from these services. And this is where it becomes a bit challenging. And the amount of information that you need to collect and process and analyze and potentially build alerts around grows dramatically.
Yep, very true. Now this is about the time when I guess you started to look at a commercial alternative to some of these open source solutions, and that's when we met you, Alex, from Sumo Logic. Now, for the folks on the call here, we will talk a bit more about Sumo Logic towards the later part of this presentation. But at a very high level, Sumo Logic is a cloud-native, SaaS-based analytics solution, and what we do is to primarily provide analytics into all of your machine data, logs, metrics, and events. So, Alex, when you looked at Sumo Logic, what interested you about the Sumo Logic platform itself? We are SaaS-based. What values did you see from our SaaS platform?
Well, to be honest, we were looking on a whole variety of different services on the market, including open source solutions. And Sumo attracted us with, first of all, full SaaS offering, where we knew that the approach or mindset of Sumo Logic is close to what we are having within our application. Then Sumo Logic is targeting services towards AWS, and it was a good out-of-the-box solution for our existing logs and metrics. Then again, thinking about SaaS offering in these days, we also think about high performance redundancy, easy to grow and easy to scale, and easy to upgrade applications. And this is something we know that Sumo is good at, and we can rely on them as our partner for it. Then again, talking about corporate environment or business customers, we need to be security compliant, and Sumo provides us PCI and SOC 2 compliance. Then again, thinking about Sumo as a partner, we think that we don't need to manage and maintain our existing systems, which is really cool, because less of headache, less of problems to deal with.
Yep, and Alex, I couldn't have said this better, right? I mean, when we started Sumo Logic, our goal was to provide a turnkey solution for our customers, provide a SaaS solution to our customers, so that you guys don't have to worry about running an analytics offering. We do that for you, and I'm very glad you saw similar value in the Sumo Logic offering. Now, from a capabilities point of view, right? Obviously the TCO of the platform and the fast, getting started with the platform obviously are very important. But from the capabilities point of view, in terms of analytics around logs and metrics and some of these other functionalities, what stood out for you in Sumo Logic?
Well, it's actually a great question, because it's not only about the availability of the platform or how is it able to scale. We also were looking for the features, and some of the features that attracted us were that, well, we got a unified support of both logs and metrics within one single dashboard that allowed us to trace down incidents and helped us in incident investigations. Then Sumo is also using machine learning analytics and algorithms to reduce log size, to compress it, then again to do log comparison to make sure that we are actually getting value out of these metrics and logs. Then cool feature as the metrics outliner or anomaly detection is something that attracted us. And again, talking about SaaS offering and platform as a service, we were considering the feature of Sumo to be available globally, which means that we can point to the nearest endpoint of Sumo and get our logs into the system, into Sumo.
That's great. Great, Alex. I'm very, very glad that you're using Sumo to the fullest extent. Now, where are you guys with Sumo Logic today? You've been a customer of ours for almost a year now. What are you guys doing with Sumo Logic today? What kind of insights do you get from Sumo Logic?
Well, just a couple of dashboards, which are a good example of out-of-the-box dashboards that Sumo provides to us. The upper left one is the CloudFront usage from Sumo, which is quite great because it took us maybe less than a couple of minutes to set it up, and we started to see all the information within one convenient and I would say quite pretty dashboard. Then the lower right one is the dashboard that represents the amount of metrics we're sending, and well, you won't be able to see the numbers there because I cut them off, but it's easy to track for us which collectors are sending more information that we expect, or if we saw any changes within it. And again, Sumo has the cool dark theme for somebody who doesn't like these white colors, and yeah, this is something that we use quite heavily.
Yep, we have taken care of people who like white, or for that matter, black. So, Alex, what kind of benefits are you seeing with the Sumo Logic offering? Right, you've come a long way in 1 year. How are your MTTR numbers shaping up right now? What kind of TCO advantages have you seen with the Sumo Logic offering?
Well, I want to say that our MTTR, MTTD numbers remain the same. I mean, our goals, which were quite high initially. But the benefits that we're getting with Sumo right now are that, first of all, we finally can focus on the things that matter for us and offload care of login and metrics solutions to Sumo as a partner who we can trust. And having login and monitoring solution which is up and running on high SLAs, it's really important for us. Then we've recognized that we got almost 5 times faster time for logs and metrics to be delivered into Sumo dashboard, and I'm talking about the rendering of the actual graphs, or let's say if there are some alerts being set up, those alerts are firing up much faster than within our previous solutions. Then we also got higher resolution for logins and metrics, which helped us a lot in our incident investigations. Talking about TCO, we recognized and we saw that it's much easier to scale because every time you are adding new nodes, anytime you are adding new pieces of infrastructure, you don't need to think about re-architecting your entire stack or adding new resources into it. You just throw all this data into Sumo stack or Sumo collectors, and that's not our job anymore. Then again, for our engineers, it's quite easy to be onboarded because Sumo helps us with the rich documentation, and quite often they do provide trainings for our engineers. Then again, talking about the infrastructure, we are having zero management cost and as well as the infrastructure itself cost, which is quite great. And talking about upgrades or any new features being added or any improvements, we don't need to care about it, and we just rely on Sumo for it.
Right. I think that's. I think you're talking to all the values that you might typically get from a SaaS platform, right? So zero infrastructure management, instant upgrades, very fast time to market, and getting up to speed with the solution itself. So, yeah, I'm glad we are providing you all of this value, Alex. And I'm glad Hootsuite has been able to improve your application using the Sumo Logic service. Now, where do you want to go next with Sumo Logic? Obviously, like they say, no IT operations journey is complete. You're always working on it. So, what do you want to do with Sumo Logic next? And where do you think Sumo Logic can help the Hootsuite service get even better?
Well, I can talk for a couple hours about where I want to go with Sumo, and not only with Sumo, but in general. But there are a couple of things to highlight. Is that we are looking to get a better and more functional API, and I'm talking more about the feature parity with the existing UI, because on a bigger scale, it's much easier for us to manage Sumo settings through the API. And it's really easy when you automate the things within your systems. Then we're also looking, and it's a call from our security team. We're looking to improve security analytics and incident detection with Sumo, which would allow us to detect attacks or fraud on early stages. Then talking about the correlation between logs and metrics. So metrics is a Sumo product that got recently announced, and obviously we're looking for more, I would say, improvement of correlation in between logs and metrics, because this will help us to reduce MTTR.
Okay. Wonderful. Hey, Alex, you're obviously an expert and a thought leader in this space. I mean, you're managing a very complex, big applications being served up in so many geographies, and doing that with some pretty amazing SLA numbers. If you had to leave, your peers, in this webinar today with some learnings, right? How do you think about, managing such a complex application? What choices should they make? What would those learnings be? What would those advice to your peers be?
Yeah, it's really interesting to talk about what we've learned, because every evaluation we're doing, every partner we're starting to work with, we are learning a lot. And one of the things that we learn again and again is that when you think about open source initially, you think about low cost, you think about it being free. But again, if you think about management and infrastructure cost, it's not that free. And quite often, and good example is our ELK stack. You can see that you can spend almost the same amount of money being with the partner who you can trust, and offload all the headache. And I mean, it's a good headache for Sumo, but for us, it's not something we want to focus on. So it's always a trade in between buy versus build. And the bigger the company is, the bigger the infrastructure is, you need to focus on the things that, or on the projects that has much more value, have much more value for us as a company, because we are building the better customer presence experience for our customers. We're not here to build login or monitoring solutions, and we're more than happy to partner with Sumo on that matter. Then again, talking about implementing any login or metric solutions, you need to have an expert within your team or within your org to focus on these solutions. But why should we do this and instead refocus these people to the actual problems that we're dealing with, or building a better application for us? And again, just to summarize a bit, is that it's really easy to get started with in-house solutions, but then it's much harder on a scale. And Sumo, for instance, providing premium model where you can, well, if I would go right now and build a new startup, I would go with Sumo with no questions, because cost-wise, it's relatively low. So don't think about free or open source as being actual free. Consider partners to bring you more value and resource, because they have much more experience and they're 100% focused on it.
Oh, thank you, Alex. We couldn't have said it better. So I think in the next few minutes, what we want to do here is to switch gear and talk a little bit about Sumo Logic and our offering. But before I do that, Alex, thanks for this excellent presentation. I think I have learned a lot, working with you, putting this presentation together, and I'm hoping that, the audience feels the same. We will also answer some of the questions that have come up towards the later part of this webinar today. So please keep your questions coming here. Alex is, as you can well understand, an expert in this space, and he has a lot to offer. So let's switch gear and talk a little bit about Sumo Logic and and our offering, right? So who exactly is Sumo Logic? Now, we are a cloud-native machine data analytics platform, and we primarily help our customers manage the operations and security of their mission-critical applications. Our solution is entirely SaaS-based. It's based on it runs on AWS. And we help ingest all kinds of machine data from the applications that our customers are running. And machine data typically includes logs, metrics, and events. Sumo Logic excels at ingesting this data. We can analyze, troubleshoot, alert on this data. We provide a lot of machine learning capabilities so that you can get to the root cause of your problems and ensure the performance as well as the security and compliance posture of your application itself. A little bit about the company. We are a 7-year-old company. We have over 1,200 customers that we support today. So, great customers like Hootsuite, but we also work with customers like Twitter and Airbnb and Salesforce and Pinterest and Anheuser-Busch. So you can see customers from very many different walks of life. And many of these customers are, either making their cloud journey or they are already in the cloud, and they want solutions that are born in the cloud to manage the performance and availability and security of their mission-critical applications. We are a big data solution ourselves. We run on AWS. We ingest petabytes of data daily. We also analyze lots and lots of data daily to provide insights for our customers. And we are also funded by some great tier 1 investors who spot big trends and are big believers in investing in those trends itself. As Alex mentioned, right? Many of our customers like Hootsuite are going through digital transformation, and they are typically building it on the backs of modern applications. Alex's Hootsuite application is very much a modern application. It runs in the public cloud. It uses DevOps and Agile style practices. It has lots of microservices that you can change very quickly and bring out new capabilities and new services to their customers. Now, managing these modern apps is also challenging, and that's where machine data analytics comes in. And what Sumo Logic excels at is to provide a unified machine data analytics platform. Our solution allows you to ingest all kinds of machine data, may they be logs, metrics, or events that are typically generated by your applications when they are serving your end customers. Our solution also provides machine learning capabilities that allows you to very quickly identify anomalies or outliers in your data. We then allow you to very quickly get to the root cause of the problem by identifying the needle in the haystack. Finally, we also leverage the power of the cloud to provide a very elastic and scalable solution. We run on AWS. We can marshal as many AWS resources as we need, so that if today you were sending us, let's say, 100 gigabytes of data, and tomorrow you decided to send us a terabyte of data, Sumo Logic has the wherewithal, because we run on AWS, to support any amount of load and any amount of data that you may be sending to the Sumo Logic service. The value to our customers primarily are threefold, right? First and foremost, they get full visibility into their modern application. Everything from the apps to the infrastructure to the services that are supporting this application that our customers are providing to their end users. 2, we help them track the end-to-end performance and ensure the SLAs that are committed against this performance. 3, we also help them identify issues when it comes to performance as well as security of their application. And that's what we provide to our customers, and that's why our customers purchase a solution like Sumo Logic. We provide very tangible ROI to many of our customers. And if I can sum it up, I'll simply put, that our customers buy Sumo Logic for 3 key use cases. First and foremost, it's to manage the performance and security of their applications. How do I reduce my MTTI? How do I reduce my MTTR? Very similar to what Alex just mentioned a few minutes ago. 2, many of our customers work with Sumo Logic when they are planning to migrate to the cloud. Many of these customers, as they are migrating to the cloud, want to understand, want to baseline, their current operations, their current security metrics, before they move to the cloud. And then they want to understand the performance and security of their applications as they have moved to the cloud. And when they find the baseline as is meeting the cloud-based to be, they are able to then move and switch their applications to the cloud itself. So many of our customers, again, use us to provide a seamless path as they are migrating to the cloud. Finally, we have many customers who also use us to improve their release management practices. You want to bring out new applications to the marketplace. You want to bring out these applications with very high quality, with the right amount of security built in. And Sumo Logic helps our customers manage and track and trend their performance and security as they are bringing out new applications to the marketplace. So great customers, including Hootsuite, and you can see that we have provided some very significant ROI values to many of these customers. Now, some of you may be asking, so what does it mean to get started with Sumo Logic? How do I get started with Sumo Logic? How does the solution work? Right? To get started with Sumo Logic, all you have to do is to get your machine data to Sumo Logic. And, we can do that by a few mechanisms. You can either, use our locally hosted collectors, think of them as agents, to collect the right machine data, logs, metrics, and events, and pipe it to Sumo Logic. Or else you can use our cloud API to send data directly to Sumo Logic. We also work very well with AWS, so if you have your AWS credentials, we know how to import data from CloudWatch logs or metrics directly into Sumo Logic. Now, once you have the data into the Sumo Logic service, which is cloud-based, you don't have to run it, we take care of it all. What does Sumo Logic provide you? First and foremost, we provide the ability to monitor this data and then alert based on anomalies and outliers that we detect. So, we will look at this data, we will trend this data, we will identify issues with this data, and we will instantly alert you through Slack, Jira, or whatever mechanism that you may have to get notified about anomalies and alerts. 2, using our advanced machine learning capabilities, you can very quickly troubleshoot this data. As Alex mentioned, we have capabilities like log reduce and log compare, which essentially allows you to understand signatures in your reams and reams of logs and other machine data, so that you can very quickly identify the root cause of your problems. And so Sumo Logic has lots of capabilities to correlate and analyze all of this data so that you can reduce your MTTI and MTTR. Finally, we also have the ability to optimize your application by allowing you to trend user and usage. Who are the users who are using my application? What capabilities are they using? Other metrics associated with the user and their interaction with the application itself. That's something that Sumo Logic provides many of our customers, which again helps our customers optimize their experience to their end customers. The Sumo Logic service is a very visual service. Our product is very visual. We have some excellent dashboards, as Alex mentioned. So let me just show you guys a couple of screenshots here to sort of bring this all together. So what this screenshot shows you is a unified logs and metrics view. And what you can see in the screenshot is our views of logs, errors, exceptions, etc. But you can also see metrics. So it could be infrastructure metrics, it could be application metrics, it could be custom metrics. So we can bring all of these machine data elements into one place at one time and provide you complete visibility into all aspects of how your application is performing. Now, what happens when your application is not performing well? First and foremost, what Sumo Logic can do is to very quickly graph your logs and metrics in the same chart. So now what you can do is look up your logs and metrics within a certain time span. So when you see a spike in, let's say, an application metric or a CPU metric, you can see all the logs that are associated within that same time span, the errors and the exceptions that you may be getting from your Docker container or your AWS services. So having this visual correlation of your logs and metrics allows you to now very quickly understand as to what is the root cause of the problem. Is it the logs that are driving some metrics issues, or is it some metrics issues that are spitting out reams and reams of logs? And then once you have that, you can again dive into the Sumo Logic machine learning capabilities to then get to the needle in a haystack and then identify that one particular issue that might be causing problems with your application itself. Again, the Sumo Logic product is very visual. It's very intuitive. Many of our customers tell us that the ease of getting that high level bird's eye view, and then getting down to the root cause of the problem is really what sold them on the Sumo Logic offering. Our solution is entirely SaaS-based. I cannot tell you enough about the platform and how our engineering team and our architects have thought about this platform. We built this solution from the get-go to be a easy to adopt and easy to scale solution. With the Sumo Logic solution, since we manage it for you, you don't have to worry about, what it means to run an analytics solution, to upgrade it, to scale it, when your application grows, or for that matter, to manage it, right? That by itself provides huge TCO values to many of our customers. We have engineers at Sumo Logic who wake up every morning and sleep late at night to ensure that our application is running at many nines of performance and availability requirements. And so that's one other thing that we take away from our customers so that they can focus on what they do best, which is to improve and their service and wow their end customers. Alex briefly mentioned about the security of the solution, and again, that's something that we pay a lot of attention to. We know that many of our customers have very high security requirements. They have PCI requirements, they have HIPAA requirements. They need to ensure that all of their data is encrypted, whether at transit or at rest. And so Sumo Logic has built a solution that has all these certifications out of the box. So if you are looking for an analytics solution that is cloud-based, that requires no management work on your side, and yet provides all the check boxes that you absolutely need to ensure the security of your analytics solution, Sumo Logic is the only solution in the marketplace who can provide you all of these capabilities. So, there are lots of platform capabilities that we're very proud of, and as Alex mentioned, if you're interested, you should definitely check out our offering. I want to just represent one slide in closing here before we turn it over to the question and answer session here. We are the only solution today that offers native support for any kind of machine data that may be generated by an application, whether that be metrics, whether that be logs, whether that be events. The Sumo Logic solution has built a time series data offering that can handle metrics natively. We have cut our teeth when it comes to log analytics for the last 7 years. We know how to handle all of this machine data exceptionally well, and that's the value that we provide to our customers. Two, we know AWS and Azure and many of these public clouds inside out. We have worked with these solutions for many years today. So So, we run many of these services ourselves. We are a modern app ourselves. And so what we have provided our customers is the ability to manage applications and services on AWS and Azure and even hybrid clouds exceptionally well. 3, we have a lot of machine learning capabilities built into our solution so that, our customers can not just identify problems, but also get to the root cause of the problem. And then lastly, our cloud-native multi-tenant offering, the fact that we run on AWS, the fact that we have a SaaS offering, allows you to find very quick time to value with Sumo Logic. You don't have to worry about managing Sumo Logic. You can worry about, running great applications and delivering better services to your end customers. So with that, I want to stop here and turn over the session back to Kayla and open the Q&A sessions. As Kayla mentioned before, feel free to drop your questions here. I know we have a few questions already, and Kayla will tee it up for Alex and I.
Great. Thank you, Kalyan. So as he mentioned, we are going to move into our questions and answers. We have a couple questions teed up already from the audience, so if you do have any questions, please be sure to chat them in as we're discussing, and we'll try to make sure that we have time for everyone. So the first question we have, Alex, how much data is Hootsuite pushing daily into Sumo Logic?
Yeah, it's actually a really great question because initially when we had our existing stack, we thought that we are pushing let's say, one amount of data or a specific amount of data, and once we started to push the data to Sumo, we figure out that we are actually sending much more data. So we were losing some data in between. It wasn't that big of the size of the data we were losing, but it was really great discovery. So far, talking about logs, we are pushing about 200 gigabytes per day into Sumo, and talking about metrics, we're pushing more than 1 million metrics per minute. And we actually worked on reducing that amount because with help of Sumo, we saw that there are some pieces of metrics we are pushing has no value for us, or it was just copy of the metric we already sent, and we reduced it to around 1 million. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that information, Alex. The next question that we have is someone would like to know what the hardest challenge was about scaling your ELK to try and support the number of nodes that you guys had.
So this question, as well as the question that related to TCO numbers from Sumo that are indicative for us, there are pieces of same benefits that we're getting with Sumo, where we can well, first of all, we reduce the need of high IOPS disks and arrays within AWS, and you may know that they are ridiculously expensive. I mean, there's a reason behind it, but they're expensive. And again, talking about the focus and amount of man hours that we spent working with our ELK stack to make sure that it is up and running was not something that we enjoyed, and having the same or even better availability from Sumo was very beneficial for us.
Great, thank you. Next question is, could you please explain why you chose to use Graphite rather than InfluxDB?
Well, it's an easy question from one end and a bit hard question from other. The easy question is because InfluxDB was wasn't production ready by the time when we had our Graphite up and running, and we wanted to make sure that we're using something that being supported and actually allow it to run on production systems. Then we were also evaluating InfluxDB during our research of better deals on the market or better partners or better services. And I want to say that still growing something in-house versus relying on your partners, the one who you can trust, I would go with purchase versus buy, because we want to focus on something that has much more value for us in terms of the problems.
Thanks for that. Next one actually is for Kalyan, and in kind of in a similar vein. Kalyan, how does Sumo work with Graphite?
Yeah, we work exceptionally well with Graphite. As Alex mentioned, they had a Graphite implementation, and they wanted to essentially switch over all the Graphite compatible metrics to Sumo Logic, and that was something that was accomplished quite easily by Hootsuite. So in terms of just pure collectors, Sumo Logic can collect Graphite data in three ways. Our native collector, the Sumo Logic collector, can generate Graphite metrics and can push it out into the Sumo Logic service. We also work with CollectD and StatsD, and for the technical folks in the audience, these are essentially great open source collection tools that many enterprises have deployed to collect the Graphite metrics. So Sumo Logic natively works with CollectD and StatsD, and you can point CollectD as well as StatsD to the Sumo Logic server and or to the Sumo Logic collector agent, and we can suck up those data and we can push it out to the Sumo Logic service.
Great, thank you, Kalyan. Next one, back to you, Alex. What are some indicative TCO numbers for using Sumo? And I think on this one, even if it's not a dollar value or anything, maybe just the intangible values that you saw as well from a TCO perspective.
Yeah, it's sort of the same or similar question on what the hardest challenge about scaling from ELK to support thousands of nodes. Again, focus and man hours is something that we value a lot, and I personally believe that it's very destructive for the teams when they are working on specific tasks in their sprint, and then all of a sudden they need to return back and take a look on what's going on with ELK stack.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Next one, I think we'll probably have Kalyan start off, and then Alex, if you have anything to jump in with. But someone wanted to know, they saw the dashboards. Are there dashboards that come with Sumo Logic? You mentioned some really quick value. Kalyan, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the unique values that Sumo Logic provides is that we provide many out-of-the-box applications with the Sumo Logic product. What that means is that we provide applications, we provide apps for many of the application components, the infrastructure components, as well as the cloud services that you may be using today. So as an example, Sumo Logic has an app for EC2, for S3, for VPC flow logs, for Elastic Load Balancer from AWS, for CloudTrail, and so on and so forth. We also provide apps for application logic, like JBoss. We provide apps for database servers. We provide apps for web servers like Apache or Nginx. And what these apps essentially do is to encapsulate all the logic, all the dashboards, and all the analytics that you need to get started with many of the components that makes up your application. So the apps know how to collect the data, they know how to interpret the data, they know how to analyze this data, they also know how to dashboard the data. So as Alex mentioned, you can pick up our ELB app. It's 1, 2, 3 click, and you're pretty much deployed the app at that point. And then once you point the AWS, or once you give us the AWS credentials, we know how to go in, suck up the ELB logs, and create a dashboard very similar to what Alex showed you. Alex, you want to add anything in terms of the apps that you use from Sumo Logic?
No, you've covered pretty much everything.
Okay,
great.
Wonderful.
Okay, moving on, next question. This one will come back to you, Alex. How was the journey of switching over to Sumo? Was it an all-at-once journey, or did it more switch team by team?
So we actually, it's actually a great question, because we had two journeys. One that is over, and I'm talking about our log stack. The other one is our metric stack. This is where we're still moving towards end of that journey. So for the login piece, it was quite easy transition. For less than a month, we did a POC and we started to send all the logs into Sumo. And the good thing about that transition is that, well, first of all, logs is not something that you are using quite heavily if everything is working for you. And most of the time, you're using it for incident investigation or doing your research. And it was heavily adopted by our security team from the very first days, because they've recognized that Sumo dashboard is working much faster than Kibana dashboard, and they were really happy about it, because queries that took them, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes were below the 1 minute. Then the other thing is that, and then again, followed by security team, our production operations team also started to use Sumo logs quite heavily, because they were the ones who were doing POC. And of course, you know, in order to show somebody the benefits of platform, you need to start using it within your team. Then talking about Graphite and journey of moving off from our existing metrics stack to Sumo. We're still using a lot of metrics, and we're still sending a lot of metrics to our Graphite stack right now. And the variety of metrics that we send to Sumo are mostly the ones that we are 100% sure that we getting a value from it. And the good example is that right now the metrics being used by our developer teams, our security teams for sure, our production operations teams, so mostly our technical org. And again, I want to say that there are a couple of cases or examples when we were switching our web servers to, and we were doing changes on our web servers and web nodes, and Sumo showed us exactly how this change impacted the overall productivity of the nodes and how it impacted our customers.
Great. Thank you for explaining all of that, Alex. Next one, we're going to pass over to Kalyan. Kalyan, what's the footprint of Sumo in the UK?
It's a great question. You know, Sumo Logic runs in many AWS availability zones, and we're constantly expanding, you know, our footprint, you know, within the AWS, you know, data centers too. So currently, we are hosted in the Dublin availability zone within the United Kingdom. You know, Ireland area. We do plan to expand into certain other availability zones within Europe pretty shortly.
Great, thank you. Alex, another one coming your way. What sort of log retention are you currently maintaining within Sumo Logic?
So right now, it's a bit over a year, which is the requirements for our security team. And to be exact, it is 390 days. Perfect.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, we'll leave you with this one, Kalyan. You mentioned that Sumo Logic, since we're running on AWS, has a lot of data about that. Do you have any data about the applications currently running there?
Absolutely. You know, it's a great question. I don't know whoever asked that question. It's a great tee up for what I want to say next. So Sumo Logic has recently released a report called the Modern Apps Report, and where we fundamentally look at, you know, many of our customers who are running within AWS. We have anonymized the data, and we present a very representative sample view of how do customers actually run their applications within AWS. You know, what kind of databases do they do? So, what kind of web servers do they use? You know, how do they decide between using containers versus running natively on an EC2 machine? So we have reams and reams of data of this kind, which is available in our Modern App Report. And that Modern App Report is available on the Sumo Logic homepage. So if you go to sumologic.com, you'll see a link to the Modern App Report. It's a free report. You don't have to register for anything. I would highly encourage all of you guys to download the report. And if you're early in the transition to AWS, it might give you some ideas in terms of how do you think about architecting your app. If you're already in AWS, it might give you some comparative data in terms of how your peers are thinking about or how your peers are running their applications within AWS. So again, this is a thought leadership report coming from Sumo Logic. It's free, and we'll continue to build on this kind of data to provide you, our customers, and the community, visibility into, how are thought leaders running their applications, in the cloud today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Don. Well, we are at almost the top of the hour, folks, so I will wrap with that final question. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us at marketing-info@sumologic.com. With that, before we close off, I do want to thank Alice and Kalyan for their great presentation today and all the information that they shared with us. And I'd also like to thank all of you for joining us today and spending a bit of your time learning more about Hootsuite's journey with Sumo Logic. With that, I am going to wrap. So as I mentioned, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us at marketing-info@sumologic.com. Thank you all for joining us. You may now disconnect.
Thank you.